Hi
Hey!
friends! I'm so excited because today is a what we read day, like a what we read video. And in this video we talk about a lot of books we really enjoyed.
Although for those of you who probably listened to our podcast, you would have probably already have heard our terrible spoilery thoughts. I get ahead of myself. Some of you are already spoiled for this. But for now, a long time coming, but I finally read Keeper of the Lost Cities Legacy. For those of you who've seen me over the last several months just sort of blast through...
Appreciating the hand holding on
the double hand holding actually. I'm not even gonna. You're like, I can't even talk about it on Fandom Buzz until this one has caught up. So suffice to say, for those of you who just got here or haven't heard me rant, Sophie is basically a young girl who discovers she is an elf. And she gets whisked away to the land of the elves, which is actually here where we live, and they curate these secret cities, and discovers that she's at the center of a great big conspiracy that could overthrow the entire world as we know it. By the way, all the elves are like super powerful and super pretty and all that good stuff, and there's a lot of ships in here. A lot of ships. But by the time you get to good old book 8, which is I think the second to the last book if I'm not mistaken, and a very good second to the last. This is really like, I'll say this one thing, it is a good way to tee up the final story.
I'm so excited but also terrified.
I don't know how Shannon Messenger is going to resolve it. By the way, she is a very gifted writer of this kind of series.
I think so too.
See, here's the thing. For somebody who wouldn't normally care about elves, and I still don't, no matter how many times Kristen says, you just like them, like, I really don't. For me to care about these characters in spite of that is one thing. To have such pretty simple but effective lore is another good piece here. And then you throw all of that in a blender, and then you get like and then you add the plot, and then you get a domino effect of just all of those three things sort of swirling around. Legacy is a good second to the last book, I want to say. Because at that point in time, you're thinking, basically, I'm just drinking tea. This entire thing is just me drinking tea, looking at the stuff and going, so you go in there, all right. You know, everything I've read for this entire thing, that is the theme of it. So I highly recommend blasting through the previous 7 books. 7 was such a hard one for me, and Alexa knows this, that I was just like, I might have to keep reading this. The first few chapters were incredibly hard because they carry over from 7, but when you get to a certain point, oh boy, it is a steep dive all the way down, and I am very excited for anybody who gets this far, because I'm like, did y'all see what just happened? So, without giving it away, congrats to the victors. I'll leave it at that.
I don't like that. That does not bode well for me.
And yet, I'm not upset.
I know. Anyway, so I'm gonna kick my portion off by talking about a book that I actually reread right at the beginning of the year. And that is The Secret Garden, which is by Frances Hodgson Burnett. And this is the beautiful Mina Lima edition of it. I mean, you've heard me talk about The Secret Garden before. It is the story of Mary Lennox, who is orphaned at a pretty young age, and she is sent to England to live with her uncle, Archibald Craven. While she is living in his household, she discovers that there are quite a few secrets about it, including a secret garden. I really enjoyed my reread of this time around. It was fun to just revisit a story that I love so much, and to once again be reminded of the different things about it that I really enjoy. The descriptions of nature, the growing relationships, Mary's growing self-awareness, the idea of magic. All of this stuff was like, once again, like it all tugged at my heartstrings in a really good way. But what makes the Mina Lima edition special is that the interiors actually have illustrations and like different designs and stuff. I'm not gonna spoil all of it, but I will say like there's this fold-out map. This is a fold-out map. Like if you fold it out, it has like a beautiful depiction of the little village that is near the household and then the actual manor itself, and it's great. It was a wonderful experience. Would highly recommend getting these editions if you're interested in reading the stories, because they add just like a little extra something special to it.
It really, really does.
I read a YA contemporary book that I really enjoyed, Tweet Cute by Emma Lord. This story is about 2 teens who go to an exclusive private school. One is named Pepper and one is named Jack. There are a couple of things that are tying them together. They both end up trying to manage their respective swim teams with each other. They also go to the same school, like I said, but they also end up anonymously chatting with each other on this chat app that gives you an identity, like it scrambles your identity and just gives you like an animal code name. They're talking to each other, but they don't realize this. And they also run their respective Twitter accounts for their family businesses, who actually end up in a Twitter feud. So it is a really cute story. I actually thought it was going to be primarily about them, you know, sort of forming a friendship and then going into a romantic direction, and it is, but it's also about the two of them sort of coming to terms with their lives and their circumstances and understanding themselves better. It's about communication, whether it's between the two of them or between them and other people in their lives. It's thinking about the future. It's trying to understand like your place in the world, really. And I loved all of those themes a whole lot. What really made the book for me were the two main characters. Pepper is a delight. She and I are very similar in personality, which I think was fun to read in a book. She is very specific about what she likes to do. She's gifted at certain things, but there's also certain things that she doesn't feel brave enough to do yet, and that comes across a lot in the story. And then Jack, on the other hand, is trying to sort of separate himself a little better from his twin brother. He really just feels like he's in the shadows all the time, and that's something that comes across in this story. And it is a delight to read this book. It was heartwarming and funny, and it was actually way more than just what it says on the tin, so I would highly recommend checking out this 2020 release. The last book I'm going to talk about in this section is the series Ender, and that's Rebel by Maria Lu, which is the fourth and final book in the Legend series. This came years after the trilogy actually ended. It does have a different sort of feel to it, especially because the two narrators, one is the same as before, that's Day, and the other one has changed because instead of being June, it's actually Day's brother Eden. Basically, this takes place after everything that has happened in the Legend trilogy. It tackles the perspective of these two brothers and how what goes on in that trilogy has shaped them. They've grown up a bit because I think it's like 6 years after maybe, and so Eden is no longer a child, he's a teenager now, and Day's pretty much like an adult. And the two of them have sort of forged a new life for themselves after all of the craziness that went down. This is them trying to figure their shit out. Day is basically trying to sort of find a way to communicate with his brother again, and he also is trying to figure out what he wants for his future. And Eden is trying to prove that he has grown up, that he's now become his own person. There's a lot of other things going on in here, but I don't want to spoil it for Mackie. Suffice to say, I loved it a whole lot.
Well, it's about brothers.
Yeah, I was gonna say, not only does it have a really compelling plot and the setting is fantastic, but I really liked the fact that it was about two brothers and their relationship is such a big and huge part of both their stories, and I really enjoyed that. It is so good. It ties together a lot of the stuff that feels unfinished at the end of the Legend trilogy, which sort of has an open ending, and it's great and it's wonderful and I really enjoyed it. It was like an instant 5-star read for me, which I don't think I gave any of the Legend books 5 stars, but this one I did, and for good reason, because it is so good. It's just the perfect combination. It's the perfect storm of like good characters, good chemistry, great plot, a good setting, and just great themes all around. So highly recommend that one
awesome
as well. So the next book that we're both going to talk about is one that we actually ended up reading at the same time.
Yeah, it was just like she said, yeah, I'm reading this, and I was like, yeah, I might as well give it a shot.
The book in question is Tempest and Slaughter by Tamara Pierce. This is the first book in the Numair Chronicles, something like that. If you have read any of other Tamara Pierce's books, the name Numair Salmonen might be familiar to you. He is a Black Robe Mage.
One of the 12 in the world.
He's primarily in the Immortals Quartet.
That's right.
This book is actually a prequel story when he was still known as Aram Draper and is studying magic.
He's studying magic at the University of Karthak.
And he has two friends who are also familiar.
Future Emperor Ozorn and
Varys.
Varys Kingsford.
Yep.
Varys Kingsford. I would like to say that, in a nutshell, it's basically a coming-of-age tale of a young boy who discovers that he's eventually going to have his place in the world.
Yes.
And so it's filled with everything Tamara Pierce that you would possibly love. Great lore that she sort of explores into, and how that fits into your average everyday life.
Yeah.
Like, you would think that after all of the books that I've read about Tamara Pierce and all of the great gods that we've seen and everything, to scale that down to just like whatever Numair was going through in Karthak would be a little boring, but no, it's still filled with
very
mystery.
Compelling.
It still sort of makes you go,
so much we
"Ooh,"
don't know about him.
Even if I know all the gods. Like, I'm seeing the gods. They're like, you see all of these things. This is the past. So, but then to see all of that sort of play out, and for Tamara Pierce to weave such a great tale where it just unfolds as Numair's life unfolds, it's just so good.
I think, again, like for me, the thing that always drives home how much I love a Tamara Pierce book, it's because of how much I love the characters. In this book, she just does such a good job. Like, I already love Numair, and I knew that, but I just love him even more just seeing him in this particular phase of his life, because he does not have the certainty or the knowledge that he has when you first meet him in the other series.
Yeah,
and this one, he's a boy who knows nothing, and he just wants to learn. He's such a little nerd. Like, he's so happy to be at this magic school. And when he makes friends and he has these two best friends, he loves them so much and he cares so deeply for them.
What is classic Tamara Pierce here is that she seems to have a gift and a talent and a love for writing prodigies.
Yes.
I don't know that she's written about anyone that is not
a prodigy in
a
some
prodigy
way.
or not extraordinary in some way. She's never written about some random normal person. I think the most normal she would have probably written was Becca Cooper, and even then
She was still pretty
she was still
wasn't
pretty
she?
extraordinary in terms of her character, and that's what they all, regardless of whether you're a prodigy or not, what they all share. All of Tamara Pierce's main characters are. It's just that you just love them. They're just such good people that will do the best that they can at every single point in their life, and you end up rooting for them so hard.
Yes, and I just love this book. I will say that the ending left me a little like irritated / bereft because it's so abrupt to me. I don't think that's a new thing really, but like to me I was just like, it ends there?
I was fine.
I was like, why? Like it could have ended at a different point in the book and I think I would have felt better about it, but I was just like, why is it ending there? That aside, my only other complaint is that we don't know when the next one is coming out because I really need it.
But I hear it's coming out this year, isn't it?
I don't know.
Allegedly.
I don't
but
know. We'll
there's something about it
find
this way.
out.
She was not happy with how it ended. I was. And yet, as a side note, I actually, right after finishing Tempest and Slaughter, ended up reading, oh, that's right, Emperor Mage and In the Realms of the Gods, where Númenor as an adult and Ozorn in the book and their involvement in this entire quartet tend to heat up and come to a head and a boil and all of that good stuff. And I must say, I think Tamara Pierce might have to retcon a few things, or if she doesn't retcon things, she's gonna have to explain some stuff in the middle, but not a lot and not important things. Like it isn't too great, but it made me hunger for Tortall.
I know.
And,
Maybe we should just read them all again and do a bookish
yeah.
breakdown for that.
That is true though, because
I could.
Oh, and you know what's interesting is I actually forgot that I also read, not just this, but I skipped Wolfspeaker. I actually also read, and I just realized just now, I totally forgot, I also read the first book. Because I remember like sobbing hysterically at having to come home to Tortall finally, where we meet Dane for the first time, and she meets Númenor for the first time. Literally, this is the story of Dane, but it is just as much Númenor's story as well as a secondary character. So that was fun. Highly recommend like read these books. Even if you start with Dane, that's fine, but why start there? Start with Alana. But if you must start with Dane, start with Dane. That's okay.
You can start
too.
with any of them.
I started with Kel, which is the third series, and I was horribly spoiled for the last 8 books.
It's fine.
But whatever. It's such a great world to immerse yourself in.
Speaking of great worlds to immerse yourself in, there is a brand new one that I was highly anticipating, and I got to read it early, and I was super excited about that. And the book in question is House of Earth and Blood by Sarah J. Maas, which is the first book in her Crescent City series, which is an adult fantasy series. And I must say, I loved it, which is not a surprise. If you've been watching our channel for long enough, you know that I am a Sarah J. Maas fan because I love her writing and I love her storytelling style and her stories. I fell head over heels in love with Crescent City. Well, House of Earth and Blood. The premise of this one centers around a character named Bryce Quinlan, and Bryce has a pretty decent life in Crescent City up until the night that her best friend Danica gets murdered. So the book eventually turns into Bryce becoming part of the investigation into her best friend's death and trying to resolve that case with the help of a dude named Hunt Atlar. And I'm gonna just leave it at that.
Yeah.
I will say that the beginning of this book is very much the setup for the story because you're immediately dropped into this world and you're told a lot about how the city is structured, the political structure, who these characters are, and it really pretty much just covers the first part of the synopsis where her best friend is murdered. I appreciated that in a way because it immediately gave me a sense of place, and it also immediately gave me a sense of who Bryce was as a character, even though it was kind of a time trying to keep everything straight at first. However, once it goes into the part where Bryce is fully immersed in this investigation and teaming up with Hunt and a couple of other people in the story, it just got real good. Like, I couldn't put it down because I wasn't sure where it was gonna go at any given point in time, and I couldn't actually put the pieces together perfectly. There were some like minor side things that I could figure out for myself, but overall I was just still pleasantly surprised at every turn. Again, for me, like, Sarah is a phenomenal writer. Her setting is incredible. I really enjoyed it because it was like she put all of my favorite fantasy sort of like races into one story and into one place. And Crescent City itself as a setting is also fascinating just because of how it's divided and spaced out. I also really enjoyed the different kinds of magic in the story because there are so many different races, so it felt very like fun to just like have all these different things going on. The plot itself is super compelling, super easy to follow too. It was really fun to read it because it's a murder mystery investigation. I am a sucker for those things, so obviously I was already like partial about that. But of course it's so much more than just that going on in this city, especially considering all the political tension between the different races. But what really sucked me in are definitely two things. First of all, characters, which you guys know I love having good characters in the story, and that's exactly what you get in House of Earth and Blood. Bryce is my new queen. She is amazing. I quite enjoy the fact that she basically takes no shit and also doesn't give a shit. She is fiercely independent. She's got her own ideas of how she wants to do things, and she really follows through with that. She's also extremely loyal. She cares so deeply about other people, and that really comes through in her story too. And I really love that. And there are a whole host of secondary characters who I'm not really going to talk about because it's fun meeting them on the page and not knowing if they're going to be a big part of the story or not. I love them all. I think like they're such an interesting mix of personalities and races, and I am definitely looking forward to seeing how things play out for them in the second book, because it's gonna be a fun time.
Oh yeah.
But the other thing as well that really like just made me love House of Earth and Blood are the themes in it. There's a real emphasis on friendship and how complicated that kind of relationship can be sometimes. There's also a lot of talk about your own self-worth, your history informing who you are in the future. There's a lot of different kinds of relationships in this story. Like thematically there is a lot to like think about for me anyway, and I really enjoyed that too. I'm trying to like be more organized about how I'm talking about it, and I feel like I haven't even covered like enough about this story. Suffice to say, I really, really loved it. I really want to reread it. I'm excited for everyone else to read it, and I think it's going to be great. By the time you guys are seeing this, it's probably out. So, happy reading. Definitely add it to your TBR. It's a good time. We kind of saved the one that I know we're both going to talk about a fair bit for last.
And we probably already talked a fair bit about it on Fandom Buzz for those of you who already have
Yes.
it. So maybe if you guys want to skip this, that's fine too. We totally respect that. But this is the non-spoilery version
Of our bookish breakdown over Chain of Gold by
That's
Cassandra
right.
Clare, which is the first book in her new Shadowhunter series, The Last Hours.
That's right. The Last Hours takes place right after the Infernal Devices, but before the Mortal Instrument series. So this is the second generation of the London Institute, I want to say, of
The
Shadowhunters.
Victorian, like, era Shadowhunters.
And the Victorian era Shadowhunters type deal. Where to even begin?
Well, first of all, if you haven't read any of the other series, you're about to get spoiled for character names because I'm going to tell you like the main premise of the story. It is basically a convergence of this new generation of Shadowhunters because Cordelia Carstairs and her family are in London for very specific reasons of their own. And so, of course, they're going to interact with all of the prominent Shadowhunter families in London, including the Herondale family, who are the mainstays at the Institute. The Lightwoods, both of the sets of Lightwoods, and a couple of other people too.
That's right.
It's not only about romance, but also about magic.
Lots of magic, actually, because that factors into...
And a lot of demons.
Demons.
Demons!
I think the press leading all the way up to the release of Chain of Gold, what with the little flash, fiction pieces that...
If you're signed up for Cassandra Clare's newsletter or follow her on Tumblr, you would have seen that.
And then the eventual release of the sort of like the official sort of art for each of the characters of this new generation of Shadowhunters, all of them rendered beautifully by...
by Charlie Bowater.
By Charlie Bowater. And so just amazing stuff. And more importantly, these characters have already sort of been alluded to as younger children.
Yes, in a lot of the short stories.
In a lot of the short stories.
Actually, every single collection, from the Bane Chronicles to Tales from the Shadowhunter Academy to Ghosts of the Shadow Market, actually features...
foreshadowed a lot of the characters sort of in here. I would say it's such a great execution of the promised story. This story was hyped up with the fandom.
I was really nervous going into it.
It almost feels like when the Avengers first came out. And
it's hard for me as someone new to the Shadowhunters fandom, because I feel like other people who have been there for a while kind of have had that experience already. This was only the second time, I want to say, second or third time that I experienced this feeling, and this is probably the strongest.
Yeah, because
I had the most expectations for it.
Because this is it. I mean, you loved them from the short stories, you loved them for the art. Now here's all of them in a book, and surprise, Cordelia Carstairs.
The story is so good. I was really not expecting to love where the direction it took, but I really do. Except for one little detail, but that's a personal thing because I just don't like
we've probably yelled about it enough on the podcast. But for the purposes of this
non-spoiler review, it's the characters for me that really made this one special.
So two powerhouses here, right? So it is the strength of every individual character, and this is a big ensemble cast.
Yes, and I love them all. That's like a rarity. I think.
And unlike I would like to think, and I think the second biggest ensemble cast would probably be the Dark Artifices by comparison, because it's a bunch of Blackthorn siblings.
But they're all family.
And they all sort of have little moments, but here everyone has big moments, which for an ensemble cast is just it's amazing. It's like when the Avengers sort of came out and you're like, you love Captain America and Thor and Iron Man, but what would it be like to have all of them together? And this book delivers. Believe the hype.
Oh my gosh, it really did.
It's so good.
I loved it so much.
And the only reason I
yelled a lot.
There are lots of yelling, lots and lots of yelling,
There are a lot of reasons to yell.
Lots of yelling, screaming, scheming, and shipping. Oh boy. Tune into our thoughts.
I can't even say anything else because that's basically it.
It's not even shipping, it's shipping. It's
Yes.
just
So if
clenched
you
fists
actually want to
and,
hear
like,
all the
guttural.
spoilery thoughts we've had, definitely listen
Please
to the podcast.
look at the podcast.
You'll-
It would have been
you'll
out by
see.
here.
Yep.
But
It
it would have
for
been out by now.
Yes, for sure. So I will link that down below. But suffice to say, Chain of Gold is definitely one of the best Shadowhunter series starters. Actually, the best Shadowhunter series
Starter. Strong series starter. Strong ensemble cast.
So good.
Shining literary
Yes.
prowess. Great plot, I'd like to say.
And that ending.
And that ending.
That is literally all I've got for you. That ending.
And that
I
ending.
have not recovered.
I have already started, like, because I know this is the past and everyone's dead. So, or are they? I don't know. I have my theories. But the point.
Not everyone's dead.
Not
And that's not a spoiler if you've read the rest
And
of the
that's not a
series.
spoiler.
I'm just
But
saying.
I have started to detach myself emotionally because this is the.
I refuse to detach myself emotionally, and
I
that's
have-
going to end in ruin.
I have seen the deaths throughout the entire Mortal Instrument Shadowhunters saga. I know what Cassandra Clare is capable of. Love nothing and everything. That's what this whole thing is about.
What is it? The quote: "Love cuts deeper than any blade."
Yes,
I can.
it does. And on that note.
On that note, definitely read all of the Shadowhunters books so that
Yeah.
you can get the Chain of Gold. The
That's
end.
true. In the end. And have a great day. So yeah, listen to us on Fandom Buzz.
Those are all the books that we wanted to talk about for this What We Read, which was clearly a very exciting one because we loved basically every single thing in this video.
The only
And would
video we
highly
wanted to
recommend.
film.
We would love to know what you thought of all of these books. Have you read
If-
Chain of Gold yet? Have
If
you read
you've
House
read
Flesh
Chain
and
of Gold,
Blood?
holler at us, please.
Oh,
We
it's
need
gonna
to talk
be so
about this.
good. Anyway, we'll see you guys for another What We Read very soon.
Bye.